5# to subscribe. The TVWAN News is proudly brought to you by BSP, our bank, our people.
Hello, this is TVWAN News. I'm Jasmine Eru.
And I'm Terry. Join me later on in the bulletin with sports.
In this edition, panel established to review tax dispute, Pariwa expressed concern at capacity issues, and Dust's win cup. The National Executive Council has appointed a panel of 3 independent experts to review the tax dispute between the Internal Revenue Commission and Barrick New Guinea Limited. The NEC have noted the progress of the activities required to reopen the Porgera gold mine and was concerned that the tax matter was prolonged.
In its meeting of February 1st, 2023, the NEC appointed David Sode, former IRC Commissioner General, David Castiglione, a specialist in resource taxation, and Rod Verb, Queen's Counsel, to work with a legal firm to review the legal analysis of the IRC's position. Prime Minister James Marape said while the independence of the IRC remains paramount, there was a need for an independent assessment to assure the government that the assessment is correct in terms of its legal and technical basis, and the government is positioned carefully to take its position in the dispute that stands in between the way of reopening Porgera gold mine. Marape added that the government have noted differing reading of the next tax law by both IRC and Barrick. Instead of allowing the deployment of tax tribunal as allowed by law for tax dispute resolutions, Cabinet felt responsible to set up this review so solutions can be found sooner. He said this independent review panel allows the state to independently look at the standoff between IRC and Barrick. The panel has 2 weeks from the date of receiving the NEC decision to complete and file its report back to the National Executive Council. Meantime, BNL has welcomed the appointment of the independent panel, stating if the panel can assist in seeing the matter be resolved fairly, amicably, and in accordance with PNG law. Freddie Mo, TVWAN News.
All parties to the Porgera mine must adhere to the rules governing the extractive industry, particularly when dealing with fiscal matters that must be administered and observed according to law. The PNG Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, or PNG EITI, made these remarks following media reports of tax dispute between Internal Revenue Commission and Barrick New Guinea.
PNG EITI Head of Secretariat Lucas Alken said the unmet tax obligations of the Porgera mine stood in the way to expedite the mine reopening process. He says a workable and timely strategy that does not impinge on basic laws is a way forward. In a statement, he said they have observed that the government was on track to conclude negotiations and reopen the mine by June last year. However, this did not eventuate as anticipated. He said attempts to reopening the mine in the second half of last year was not feasible due to the national general elections and the formation of the government. it appeared that all negotiations were concluded and a new Porgera mining agreement framework was in place for the mine to be reopened in the first quarter of this year. Surprisingly, Alcan said they learned that an old Porgera tax liability dispute is standing in the way for the mine to be reopened. He added that the early recommencement of the mine, preferably within the first quarter of this year, is critical for the country as the lead time required for mobilizing resources and the significant startup capital needed to get the mine back into its full operating capacity would be a significant challenge. Freddie Moe, TV1 News.
Minister for Trade and Investment Richard Maru said Thailand has a lot to offer PNG in terms of food processing, manufacturing and downstream processing. Maru shared this after a one-week trip to Thailand. Alongside his delegation, Vice Minister for Trade and Investment Kesi Sawang, Department Secretary Jacintha Manua and Medang Governor Ramzi Pariwa.
Thailand has 40 fish processing plants and is the tuna capital of the world with no local fishing industry. Minister for Trade and Investment Richard Maru shared that his delegation were marveled at the achievement of Thailand during their visit last week. He said Thailand, over a span of 30 years, has transformed to become a top leader in processing of fish, chicken, rice and sugar.
One of the countries that has transformed over the last 8 years is Thailand. They now have a 500 billion US economy. One example we found was Thailand has 40 fish canneries when they don't fish in their waters. All the fish is imported from all over the world, including Papua New Guinea. They employ millions in the fishing industry. All they do is buy the fish, bring it in, process it in their world-class factories, and sell it to the rest of the world, including Australia.
Minister Maru said PNG can transform over the next 20 years if the country develops a partnership with Thailand and have access to its well-established global markets.
This is a country that started like us, a third world poor country. In the last 8 years, they've transformed by bringing in industries that we could easily do, by having very strong leadership and policy.
Vice Minister Kesi Sawang also shared the same sentiment, adding that they have invited investors from Thailand to visit PNG.
When you look at it, we've been independent for about 47 years, going towards 50. And if we are still exporting raw materials for 50 years, then something must be wrong with us. Like, development means we have to transform from one state to the next. If we are still exporting cacao at its raw form, the cocoa beans, then we got to really do something about it. And I think that is where our ministry is really keen. And we want to be very focused on downstream processing and food processing. Because once we are food secure, then our economy will take off. And that's exactly what Thailand did.
Minister Maru said PNG can also benefit from a strong trade and investment partnership with Thailand, like tourism development and developing the special economic zones.
Medang Governor Ramzi Pariwa has called on the Marape Rosso government to address some of the capacity issues affecting development of special economic zones in the country. Governor Pariwa, who was part of Minister Maru's delegation to Thailand last week, expressed concern at the lack of enabling infrastructures such as road accessibility, electricity problem and lack of water supply in the rural areas. The governor said he wants the PMIZ project in Medang off the ground. However, investors cannot invest unless these are addressed.
Thai companies have expressed interest to invest in the country if PNG is able to provide land, electricity, good roads, wharves, and enabling infrastructures. Madang Governor Ramsey Pariwa, who travelled with the Minister for International Trade and Investment Richard Maru and his delegation to Thailand last week, expressed concern at capacity issues which will affect the development of the government's embarked Special Economic Zone projects.
And to host PMIZ, we're expecting 10 tuna factories. And yet we cannot catch because we don't have the capacity. And that's a slap on my face. But it is good. I learned that we have problems that we should face. And I call on National Fisheries Authority to come up with these facts, this information, present it to the government so that we can look for ways forward to sort that out.
Governor Pariwa has called on the Marape Rosso government to fix enabling infrastructures, including electricity and water supply issues.
Infrastructures are main factors of production that enable them to produce, to supply the world with their products. We need electricity, good electricity, powers to power the industries, water supply, and such other utilities. And I would very much like the government to look at this. These are the capacities that we need to build before we call for investors to come into this country and invest. We don't have enough power supply. Currently, we are facing all throughout the country.
He said the PMIZ project in Madang, initiated in 2004, has been a failed project. However, is confident to get it off the ground in the near future under the leadership of Minister Maru.
I'm grateful that the minister was positive about the challenges, that the government will now look at fixing those challenges. It's good that it has come up from the investors themselves, that we are facing such problems that we need to take care of. And the minister has positively responded and encouraged them that we are going to look into that and fix those challenges. And so I am looking forward to work with the minister, although I am not a part of the ministry, but I'm looking forward to work with them for the greater interest of Madang and this country.
Governor Pariwa is confident Thai investors can help PNG and Madang redevelop the PMIZ project into a manufacturing and world-class industry. Jumaima Sukbat, TVWAN News.
Meanwhile, Secretary for International Trade and Investment Jacinta Manua says PNG can learn from Thailand in meeting international standards for its food and manufacturing process. She called on the National Institute of Standards and Industrial Technology to collaborate with Thailand in pursuing to meet international standards and apply these standards to PNG companies.
We call on the National Institute of Standards and Industrial Technology to collaborate with Thailand and other Asian countries that are aggressively pursuing meeting the international standards and conformance for the food processing and manufacturing industries here in Papua New Guinea, and apply these standards for those companies that are operating in Papua New Guinea and that are yet to come into Papua New Guinea to produce for the PNG market and also for the export markets. Thailand has a good share of international markets for their food processing and manufacturing industries, and over the years have gained the respect of being the quality supplier of these products. However, Thailand is soon to have shortage of land, as we have heard from the ministers, and are looking at investing offshore. And Papua New Guinea is, of course, a destination for Thai investors.
This is TV1 News. We'll have the day's other stories after the break.
With BSP Internet Banking, you can enjoy your banking at home, at work, or wherever you are. BSP Personal Internet Banking allows you to view your accounts and transactions, transfer money, bill pay, schedule future payments, or access your bank statements. Visit your nearest BSP branch to register now. BSP Internet Banking, the smarter way to bank. BSP, Our bank, our people.
It's on again. It's back to school with Colgate and Protex. 100,000 kina worth of prizes to be won. Win laptops, tablets and 250 kina shopping vouchers. Simply purchase 2 or more Colgate and Protex branded products, write your name and contact details at the back of the receipt, drop it in the entry bin in participating stores for a chance to win. Promotion begins 1st February and ends 31st March 2022. Hurry! Go to your nearest participating store and purchase Colgate and Protex products to win. Terms and conditions apply.
We see you day in, day out, getting on with the job. Coming out on top because you're not one to back down. From the islands to islands, from the southern to the north, we see you moving heaven and earth to move our country forward. And at the end of the day, we will be there to serve Papua New Guineans who achieve success with the reward they deserve.
It's that time again! Scale Rise is giving you the chance to win some Scale School money for 2023. Over 220 winners, 4 fortnightly draws, that's 55 fortnightly winners. Cash prizes starting at 1,000 kina, 2,000 kina, 3,000 kina. They also have consolation prizes of 500 kina. Buy any Scale Rise or Ori Rise to enter the promotion for your chance to win the Scale School money. Terms and conditions apply. Scale Rise,
the brain changer.
Open Lens.
Welcome back. Parents were at the Sevese Moria Primary School in Vabukori Village today to discuss solutions with the school board on the delay of the refurbishment of some classrooms. The delay has affected grades 4 to 7 and interrupted learning at the start of the 2023 academic year. Member for Moresby South Justin Kachenko, who initiated the development of the school, gave his remarks on this. Discussions were made today at the Sevese Moria Primary School in Vabukori Village with teachers, parents and board on solutions for the delay of refurbishment on some classrooms. According to Parents and Citizen Meeting Chairman for Sevese Moria Primary School, Robert Lausi, the urgent call for a PNC meeting was to look for solutions for the issue.
As the PNC Chairman, I have decided to call an urgent meeting this morning. That is regarding the status of the school, what the school is currently facing problems in classroom allocation. Right now, our school is going through a major redevelopment. The project that has been initiated by our good minister, Mr. Honorable Justin Kachenko. But due to the demolition of the classroom, and our good minister's promised us to deliver some tents to put up makeshift tents, but the tents has not arrived on time. And that has caught up with that has affected learning of the children.
This news team had a phone interview with the member for Moresby South, Justin Kachenko, on his response to the delay. There was a meeting last week with Moresby South District Authority with all board members and teachers about the construction of the new school, which is currently built as we speak. We will be providing brand new marquee tents to cater for the classrooms that are not going to be used. To the parents, I apologize for any inconvenience caused, but we must look at the long-term situation. We just paid over 140,000 kina for 3 brand new marquee tents that have been made and fabricated in Port Moresby so that children can have that facility for temporary classrooms. We are always moving one step ahead, and frustration from the school and board. I can understand the situation, but this is all for the long-term gain for the benefit of our students and teachers. Kachenko added that the school has been run down in a bad state for many years and it is unfit for any student or teacher. We have to rebuild these buildings. The standard we are setting for the school in Mosby South are the highest standards, and Service Morea should be very happy that we finally got the school under construction. Brand new fencing, landscaping, new ablution blocks, teacher facilities, and twice as many classrooms. Whilst awaiting the requested marquee tents, a working committee comprising of parents, teachers and board members was created today to make way to find solutions to fix the issue. Jasmine Eru, TV1 News. The focus for Taripori District this year is on education, health, law and order, SMEs and infrastructural development. Prime Minister and Taripori District Development Authority Chairman James Marape said he will support the DDA to achieve this when presiding over the district's first DDA meeting for 2023. At the meeting recently, Prime Minister James Marape announced that each district in PNG had been allocated 10 million kina in District Services Improvement Program, with an additional 5 million kina for priority infrastructure. He urged his DDA members to work on Taripori District priorities. Hala Governor Philip Undialu also attended to give provincial government support to Taripori DDA. Meantime, Tari Town Mayor Andaija Jelly was reappointed as Deputy Chairman of Taripori DDA. The new island government is adamant about attaining autonomy to have more power over its resources and the overall governance of its province. To achieve political, financial and administrative autonomy, the province has developed two important constitutional laws to chart the way forward.
Governor Sir Julius Chen said important constitutional laws council in 2012 for New Ireland to have more power over its governance. They are the Constitutional Amendment Law on the Autonomous Government and Organic Law on the Autonomous Governments. Sir Julius is calling on the national government to approve the 2019 autonomy submissions for the three pilot provinces vying for autonomy: East New Britain, Enga and New Ireland. He said New Ireland government is adamant about attaining autonomy to have more power over its resources and the overall governance of its province. The submissions is for the NEC to endorse and approve for the National Parliament to enact the constitutional laws to allow for the autonomous system of government to be recognized by the Constitution of PNG. Sir Julius said the parameters in which the New Ireland autonomy model is set out clearly in the original Mulligan Declaration, the revised Mulligan Declaration Forward, and the most recent revised New Ireland Declaration, guided by New Ireland's autonomy policy adopted in 2008. The New Ireland autonomy model was supported by the national government's commitment in the Alatau Accord and under the leadership of the then Prime Minister Peter O'Neill. Jumaima Subbat, TV1 News.
South Wiru LLG President of 20 years Joseph Kunukunu was sworn in as the Deputy Governor of Southern Highlands recently. He was sworn in by PEC Chairman and Governor William Paui on January the 26th, witnessed by Prime Minister James Marape with other senior cabinet ministers.
Southern Islands Governor William Paui has congratulated President Kunukunu and acknowledged his work in the province and South Viru over the years and stands ready to work with him and the Provincial Executive Council members. He acknowledged Kunukunu for the establishment of South Viru High School under his leadership and made commitments to continue fund and ensure enrollments in 2023. Whilst congratulating the people of South Viru, he also made comments to work with the former Prime Minister Peter O'Neill to support his district development authority regarding the 2023 provincial government budget. O'Neill acknowledged the support and called for transparency in service delivery. Deputy Governor Kuno also acknowledged the appointment and pledged to work closely with all the communities of Southern Islands and ensure that peace and unity is restored. He thanked the PEC under the chairmanship of POWI for the trust in his leadership to elevate him as Deputy Governor. He added that it's a privilege for the people of South Viru to host the Deputy Governor of Southern Islands and will work with the Yalibupangia DDA to deliver services in Southern Islands Province. Freddie Mo, TVWAN News.
350,000 kina was raised at the Kumul Petroleum Charity Golf Challenge in Leh on Friday, February the 3rd. Kumul Petroleum Holdings Managing Director Wapu Song said over 50 teams from business houses in Leh, Port Moresby and the Highlands region registered for the inaugural event.
54 teams participated in the inaugural Kumul Petroleum Holdings Limited Charity Golf Challenge in Leh on Friday, the 3rd of February. Kumul Petroleum Holdings Managing Director Wapu Song was appreciative of the overwhelming response from business houses in Leh, the Highlands and Port Moresby. Prime Minister James Marape and Minister for Fisheries and Marine Resources Jelta Wong also took part in the event, which raised 350,000 kina to purchase much-needed cancer drugs for the Angao Memorial Provincial Hospital.
It's the first time for Kumul Petroleum to host such an event, but the response has been really good. We've had 54 teams registered, and that's according to the numbers that we have got from the golf club here. They were only hosting maximum 36 teams. We did 10 teams more, even more. With the presence of the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister and senior ministers of government and leaders of Morobe yesterday and today, it shows that the event had a big support. It's a reflection of the worthy cause and the nature of the event. And we are very proud to be associated with Angao Hospital.
KPHL stressed that cancer is a hidden killer in Papua New Guinea. With the change in lifestyle, the risks are real, and even young people are susceptible to lifestyle diseases. This makes the fight against cancer everyone's business, from business houses to non-profit organizations, communities and individuals. KPHL has spent 5 million kina per year for 3 years now to upgrade the Leh Cancer Treatment Center, train staff and also fund the procurement, installation and commissioning of a new radioactive source for Angao's Cobalt-60 machine. Carol Kidu Jr., TV1 News.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister James Marape extended his appreciation to all stakeholders who participated in the Charity Golf Challenge. He also applauded Kumul Petroleum Holdings for sponsoring the event, which aims to purchase chemotherapy drugs for the Angao Memorial Provincial Hospital.
In these moments like this, we all share a load, help each other in society. There are many cancer patients in our country. Our government aimed, and I'm standing next to a former health minister who worked very hard in his tenureship as health minister to ensure that we had 2 specialist hospitals in our country. Port Moresby and Leh, we think it of in the first instance. I just want to appreciate Kumul Petroleum for being the main sponsor for this charity golf here. I came late in this afternoon. I did my jobs in Port Moresby, but just came late to witness the presentations later today to appreciate all companies and all individuals who have come out to help this wonderful, worthy cause. Many mothers, many daughters, many cancer patients in our country are losing life, and we need to have these facilities ticked off. And a round of commendations to everyone who have an interest in supporting Leh Cancer Facility being up and running. Our government also gives full commitment. That is part of our program to get it off. And we appreciate our business who came up in a very big way.
TV1 News continues after the break. Stay with us.
Experience a convenient and smarter way to do your banking with BSB Mobile Banking. You don't have to leave the office or your home to pay for bills. You can view your account balance, transfer funds, top up phone credits, or purchase easy paid units wherever you are. Visit your BSB branch today to register now for BSB Mobile Banking. BSB Mobile Banking, the smarter way to bank. BSB, our bank, our people. When you're spending time with family, when you've got a big day ahead, when you have given it all you've got, when you're putting on a feast, that's when you want the best. That's when you want flame rice. New flame rice. Win him, Olgeta.
He says the best Hunters players come from his region. So does she. But there's one thing that brings everyone together. SB Lager. Bungum Yumi. Cheers to 70 years.
I came from the remote part of Eastern Islands. I have seen the laboring mother somewhere on the road coming to the nearest aid post to deliver a baby, and on the way somehow either the mother or the baby passed away.
We saw that his work was really specific in trying to find solution to the problem.
Oh, Tommy!
My wife, she's a midwife, and she said we have to build up a waiting hut so that we can accommodate those marginalized pregnant mothers. We all have a weakness and strength, and we must all hand in hand and then support so that we have a good community to live in.
I want you to win somebody's heart. That's Naren.
I never asked for your help with anything, Dad. Don't impose your expectations.
I'm going to be the one who makes the final decision here.
Welcome back. Turning overseas now, firefighters are still at the scene of a major blaze which has gutted a Buddhist temple in Melbourne's southeast overnight. The fire began just before dusk at Springvale, drawing large crowds as flames leaped high into the air. ABC's Stephanie Ferrier with the report.
You can see behind me here the devastating result of this massive blaze that swept through the Bright Moon Temple here in Springvale in Melbourne's southeastern suburbs around 8 o'clock last night. Now, we have heard from the Assistant Chief Fire Officer Paul Foster. Actually, there is a fire station that's only about 200 metres down the road from here, and they were first on scene. But by the time they got here, the fire was already well alight, with flames very quickly engulfing this structure. And this once majestic temple is now just reduced to a charred shell. Now, we did hear from Paul Foster that those flames were leaping really high into the air, and the ferocity of the blaze was such that they had to use cranes. There was no way that any of the fire crews could get inside. It certainly was a real concern for firefighters. Some 80 fire officers having to fight this blaze last night, and there was also real worries for adjoining townhouses here as well.
Yes, there were. There's a block of townhouses to the directly north of this facility, and over 30, I think nearly 30 people were evacuated for the entire evening and given alternative accommodation due to the danger of the fire being so close to their own homes.
Now, Paul Foster says that at this stage it's still too structurally unsound to allow fire investigators in, because there is the risk that the entire rear wall could collapse in this temple. In the meantime, there were also huge crowds last night, and many of the members of the Buddhist community have come back and have been standing quietly across the road, just reflecting on what has become of their beloved temple. And we've also spoken to the president of the temple, Vin Lee. He says the biggest concern at the moment is whether or not they will be able to safely retrieve some 500 to 600 urns of loved ones' ashes. He says that he's really heartbroken to see what has become of his temple.
I can't sleep last night. All night, no sleep. Say, why? Very quick, what happened?
He says that he originally helped organise the donations back in the 90s to be able to build this temple, and he certainly hopes that the community will be able to band together to rebuild, but he is concerned that he is now a lot older than what he was back then, and so he certainly hopes that he will live to see this temple return to its former glory.
The state opposition has accused Labour of going quiet on plans for new $120 million ambulance headquarters pledged at last year's election to reduce ramping at emergency departments. But the health minister says the Liberals previously dismissed the project, which is currently going through a detailed planning phase.
Locals inspected their new ambulance station unveiled in Strathalbyn this morning, but the opposition says the state's ramping emergency remains, with patients queued up in ambulances at Flinders Medical Centre only yesterday. The Liberals asking when work will start on the Premier's promised $120 million city ambulance headquarters.
He said that this was a clear part of his plan to fix ramping in this state, and so we expect him to be forging on and delivering exactly that.
We're doing the hard work in terms of the planning of it. So it's a bit rich, really, for the Liberal Party yet again to be complaining about something only a few months ago they said wasn't needed at all.
The health minister says while there's still a long way to go to fix the problem, there was a 7% drop in hours lost to ramping at Flinders last month. The new station at Strathalbyn is the second of 12 new stations in the pipeline, with locals saying the $4.6 million facility is a welcome investment for an area enjoying a population boom.
And particularly in the older generation of people in this community, they've also come from the eastern states. A lot of people have moved here from eastern states as well as a lot of other parts of Australia.
This area is growing so quickly. It's starting to catch up with Mount Barker, and I really feel like it was well overdue, and I'm so pleased that it's here.
100 homes have gone under the hammer at an auction frenzy in Brisbane. Optimistic buyers were making the most of falling house prices, but 2 days out from the next predicted rate rise, plenty were playing it cautiously.
It's a gladiatorial arena where rapid-fire speech and impulse decisions reign.
We know that irrespective of market conditions, competition is what drives the price every single time.
Winners leave with mortgages.
Perfect home for myself and my two daughters.
While losers continue on their quest. It's the first time this Brisbane agency has held a so-called auction festival. Hundreds of buyers turned out, nearly outnumbered by agents.
With the Reserve Bank predicted to raise rates again on Tuesday, some households are entering 2023 under significant mortgage stress. But that hasn't deterred buyers here.
The market's gone crazy and we got pushed out a bit, but I feel like it started to slow down.
Look, it's topsy-turvy. It's all over the place. Yeah, so it's hard.
It's a bit scary with interest rate rises, definitely, and hoping it'll kind of stabilise soon.
We sold earlier last year when the market was good, so for us it's a buyer's realm at the moment.
Brisbane house prices rose 43% during the pandemic, but have dropped more than 10% since last June.
We strategically set the event to be on the 5th, knowing that we had an interest rate rise coming on the 7th.
The reason the agents are holding mass auctions is because they're not making as many sales as they used to.
With more than 100 properties up for auction and a clearance rate of 50%, these buyers might be resuming their place at the top of the real estate food chain.
Coming up next in sports with Terry, PNG RFL calls for affiliate and Ashes takes out series. Taking us to break is the weather forecast for the next 24 hours.
He says the best Hunters players come from his region. So does she. But there's one thing that brings everyone together. SB Lager. Bungum Yumi. Cheers to 70 years.
This should be a warning for you. His heart is already at its limit. He might not be able to survive another attack. He needs an operation as soon as possible, okay?
You should be scared, kid. Because your parents just sold you off to me. So I owe you now.
Wait, you sold Aris to Dante? How could you do that to him? John, how could you do that?
So you want to earn some big bucks, huh? You think you have what it takes?
I do.
The beast is away! Oh, what a player! What a player! Yet Fannington couldn't stop him with a bazooka! They're not rugby league players! They're magicians! He's electric! He scores for Melbourne! All aboard the Amazing Race Charter!
New destinations.
You're going to the Kingdom of Jordan.
New twists.
For the first time in Amazing Race history.
New season.
You're here for a reason, because you're great, so you be great.
The Amazing Race. Season premiere, February 7th at 8:50. Only on AXN.
Just another Blazing Walker, a bone rattler. That's shot out wide home. It's
Welcome back. In sports, the Papua New Guinea Rugby Football League is calling on all interested local leagues around the country who wish to affiliate to the mother body to send their expressions of interest ASAP. PNG RFL recently highlighted set guidelines for the management and administration of the domestic game and its 2023 calendar.
Following last week's announcement on the expression of interest for local leagues wishing to affiliate and the strategic guidelines to follow, PNG RFL Development Unit called a brief media conference today to outline and elaborate on the requirements and processes of affiliations as per the PNG RFL strategic plan. PNG Game Development and Participation Coordinator Nigel Hukula, when giving an overview on the requirements and the compliance, said the focus is on community rugby league, which will be the foothold and the base of a lot of their programs.
But for now, the whole purpose of this expression of interest is to start getting the momentum of rugby league going back in the community, and I use the word community as a precursor towards what we envisage the game will be looking like. There's been a lot of focus on many different areas, but community rugby league is some area that PNG RFL has seen that this is the foothold and the base of a lot of our other programs that will be running concurrent throughout the course of the year.
PNG RFL Competition Coordinator Saku Ank further explained the requirements, guidelines and the processes that must be followed before leagues can be accepted and issued participation agreements.
With that participation agreement signed between, we'll issue a certificate of compliance that will subscribe to leagues that will be fully compliant and sanctioned by PNG RFL. With that certificate of compliance, they will subscribe to trainings, coaching certificate, strength and condition refereeing as well, and they will also transition them into the My Sideline database.
When emphasizing the importance of compliance and subscription, Game Development Coordinator Southern Confederate Andy Verena reminds all interested leagues must hold their AGM and minutes taken prior to the PNG RFL AGM.
In terms of affiliation, all those requirements must be met before we ask them to subscribe. Now, subscription talks about them paying the affiliation fee, the correct affiliation fee, which I believe is 1,000 kina, and the player registration fees, which is going at 50 kina per player. So those are the two most requirements that leagues need to comply to before we get them to subscribe to PNG RFL.
In his concluding remarks, PNG CEO Stanley Hondina encourages all leagues, both new and existing, to organize themselves and submit their applications for possible inclusion to the 2023 competition.
Provincial capitals are major leagues by definition, and there's a requirement skill set or requirements for them to meet. And then minor leagues are the district leagues or the community leagues that are played around. So their requirements are a bit flexible to the major league.
Whānau Dust are the new champions of the NCD Governors Cup Challenge after defeating G6 Knights 8-2 in a physical but entertaining grand final showdown at the Moresby Southside Stadium on Sunday. Knights were leading 2-0 at half-time before Dust took control of the match in the second half, kicking a penalty and scoring a try to seal the victory.
Whānau Dust's man of the match, Joel Genna's performance got his team over the line to edge out an equally determined H6 Knights 8-2 in the NCD Governors Cup Grand Final at the Moresby Southside Stadium. The Bomana team scooped 15,000 kina and the Governors Cup, while the Knights walked away with 7,000 kina and the trophy. Dust, led by Genna and the Pokare brothers, combined well in the second half to put pressure on the Knights' defense, using their second phase play to set the platform for their attack. Knights, despite tireless efforts, had their work cut out for them for majority of the second half by the opposition's solid defense time and again. Both teams qualified for the Big Dance after the semi-final playoff earlier on in the morning, with Dust giving Raiders Namona of Hoala a hiding 16-0, while G6 Knights got past favourite Surrey Hawks by a one-pointer 13-12 to qualify for the big showdown. In the women's, Prestige Veno edged out White House Sisters 4-0 in the clash of the current and former PNG Orchids, with the former PNG Orchids Malamark scoring the only try of the match. Veno were presented 2,000 kina and the trophy, while Sisters got 1,000 kina. After all the delays, the grand final finally ended peacefully with the presentation of awards by CEO Dr. Newton Albert, PNG Waste Management Director Dixon Samai, NCD Sports Manager Kiladik, and Port Moresby Vipers Team Manager Ronnie Titi. NCD Governor's CEO Dr. Albert said it will be bigger and better this coming Christmas. He said the Governor had fully recovered and extended his congratulations for the successful and peaceful grand final ending. Rabaul Leisures put on a gallant performance on Saturday to outscore the more fancied Kokopo Marlins 2-1 to take out this year's AGMA Clash of Town Series 14-4 at the Callabon Field, Kokopo. After the 16-all draw last week at Queen's Park, Ashes were a different side with the inclusion of former Guria Jackie Marcus leading the young team around the park. To the campaign going down 12-16 to Marlins in Game 1 played at the Callabon 2 weeks ago, Ashes showed what they can do with a more polished performance last week when they hosted Game 2 at Queen's Park. Although it was a drawn match, the Radas boys took a lot of confidence out of the encounter and used it as a platform for the big decider on Saturday. With the presence of AGMA General Manager and major sponsor Stephen Nightingale and Guria's head coach Francis Ray on the stands, it was a big moment for players to impress and put their hands up for Guria's selection this year. The match got off to a pacey start with Marlins having the home ground advantage, were first to score through Brandon Mota only 4 minutes into the contest to take an early lead 4-0 after Elias Selu missed the conversion. Ashes, looking slick with the ball in hand, eventually got on the board with a try to Chris Benjamin on the 16th minute to shoot in front 6-4. The intensity of the game continued with good display of free-flowing football by both sides, putting their best foot forward while their defense was relentless. It was evident with the score locked 6-4 at half-time in Rabal's favor. In the second half, Marlin's defense somewhat capitulated that Sorobal took full control of proceedings, led by veteran Jackie Marcus and Karen Guria and Captain Lance Mutu, running rings around the Kokopo boys with tries to Marcus on the 45th minute and Brian Jolam scoring on the 56th minute to seal the series in their favor 14-4 at full time. The day ended with presentations of awards to outstanding individuals from both teams and the announcement of the 26-man squad with possible inclusion to the 2023 Gurias train-on squad. Apart from the current Gurias, a number of exciting talents to look out for, including Port Moresby Vipers' William Tirang, Brandon Mota, Brian Jolam, Colin Tokau, Kelly Lyon, Miles Bunham, Paul Nelson and Regan Naipau, who were impressive throughout the series. General Manager of Agma Group and major sponsor Stephen Nightingale congratulated both teams for a great series and looking forward to the series continuing next year.
Congratulations to Rabat Lashes taking up the series this year. And again, start again back to the concept again for next year. So play strong for next year. And as long as NHIP Agmark is here, this is a concept I continue.
In overseas sports, a Tasmanian competing in his first ever Ironman event has won the inaugural Ironman Tasmania. After 113 kilometers of racing, Commonwealth Games medalist Jake Birdswhistle was first over the line in the men's division, while another experienced campaigner overcame illness to win the women's.
On a perfect Hobart morning, the first ever Ironman Tasmania began with a swim in the cold River Derwent. Not much separating the top athletes through the 1.9 kilometre course. The next leg, a 90k ride through Hobart's northern suburbs, billed as one of the hardest on the Ironman circuit, testing even the likes of Olympic triathlete and Tassie local Jake Birdswhistle. Thankfully, the riders had plenty of encouragement. In the men's, Matt Burton led at the end of the ride, followed by Mitch Kibbe, with Birdswhistle in third, while pre-race favourite Ali Salthouse led the women into transition 2. Just ahead of Penny Slater. Halfway through the 21-kilometre foot race to finish, Caleb Noble had a 43-second lead over Birdswhistle. But the Tasmanian was reeling him in, and by the time they looped back around, he was in front. The crowd favourite competing in his first ever Ironman, crossing the line in 3 hours, 49 minutes and 21 seconds. Just 15 seconds ahead of Mitch Kibbe.
I'm stoked. That was a really cool race, and yeah, to win on debut was pretty special, and to do it at home in Tasmania is something even cooler.
The women's race wasn't quite as close. Ali Salthouse burning the competition in the run, the 29-year-old Queenslander winning in 4 hours, 25 minutes and 8 seconds.
The inaugural event, so I get the automatic course record, which is nice. So yeah, hopefully I can keep that for a while longer, and yeah, a really nice event and really happy to take the win here.
And that ends the sports segment for now. It's back to you, Jasmine.
Thank you, Terry. Before we go, remember to apply the following simple measures to prevent the transmission of the coronavirus. Regularly wash your hands with soap and water. Cough or sneeze into your elbow, and exercise social distancing. If you are feeling sick, please stay at home. You can also call the COVID-19 hotline number for more information or assistance. Have a top week ahead. Bye for now.
Bye.
The TVWAN News was proudly brought to you by
BSP, our bank, our people.